Hello and welcome to our latest and greatest episode of Better Together Arizona. I am your host, Angela Huey. So excited to have this wonderful discussion today about Native American Heritage Month with really remarkable community leaders. We have a lot to cover, so to get us started, I want to give you all an opportunity to just introduce yourselves. So, Kristine, you want to kick us off?
Yes, thank you. First, thank you so much for the invitation. We really appreciate being here. And it's my first time, so I'm really excited.
Oh, your first podcast.
Oh, yes, that too. Thank you for the reminder.
Fantastic.
I'm Kristine Firethunder. I'm the Executive Director for the American Indian Chamber.
So glad you're here. Navi?
Well, thank you again for having me too as well. My name is Navi Ho. I am a drag queen artist, performer here in Phoenix, and yeah.
How long have you been performing in the Phoenix area?
I've been performing drag some 14 years here in the Valley. I started out with the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence here.
Wonderful. So. Got it. And Jolyana is joining us virtually.
Hello. Yeah, it's a good afternoon to all of you. My name is Jolyana Begay Kroupa, and I'm an enrolled member with the Navajo Nation. I come from the community of Fort Defiance, Window Rock, up on Navajo land. But I've been here in the Valley for over 20 years. I serve as the CEO for the Phoenix Indian Center, which is an amazing social service agency that is dedicated to supporting our urban American Indian relatives here in Phoenix. And I'm happy to be part of this conversation today.
We're so delighted all three of you are here. So Native American History Month, let's talk about this because I feel like enough folks don't really know about Native American History Month. So I was hoping that you could give us all some pointers about like what Native American History Month means to you as community members and ways that folks can celebrate and really just learn more and get more involved.
Yeah. So, when we first started talking, you were asking me about Native American Heritage Days. And then I wanted to talk about, well, it's more than that because in Phoenix, we're really big about Native American Recognition Days. And we have a parade, and there's all these events that happen, and there's a calendar, and there's so many inputs from various aspects from the community that lasts a very, very long time. And now that we're getting to Thanksgiving, most of the month is over and we're getting towards the end of Heritage Days, but there's still celebrations to come.
Wonderful.
And most important is talking about, the real story about Thanksgiving, but I think we'll save that for later.
Is that a different podcast?
That might actually be a few different podcasts.
Well, we'll have to dive into that.
Yeah. And so once we started talking about it, I was like, you know what, Jolyana's really part of this. And so is Native Health. But I really wanted to talk about some of the things that are offered through the Phoenix Indian Center because they're also hugely involved in the program. So it just felt remiss to leave Jolyana out.
Well, Jolyana, she just teed you up. Tell us what the Phoenix Indian Center's got going on.
Yeah, for sure. So first, from an individual perspective, as an Indigenous woman, Native American heritage and the resilience that we have as Indigenous peoples is something that I'm thankful for each and every day. And while dominant world places an emphasis in the month of November, when we really look at history, Indigenous peoples have a lot to offer. There is so much that we have given, but continue to embrace as original caretakers of these homelands, right? Here in Phoenix alone, we are on the ancestral homelands of the Akimalotam and the Pipash peoples. It is because of them we're able to reside here. We're able to work here. We're able to learn from here, have neighbors, right? So every day I give thanks. And I think in the month of November, within our organization anyway, our schedules fill up pretty quick because it is the time where community members are placing emphasis on the original inhabitants of these lands, right? What is your current story? What are some of your stories, traditional stories that you could share with us? We also do a lot of cultural awareness, which is one of the core service areas that we offer here at the center. So it's really about creating an understanding of who we are and why we're where we're at. So when we look historically, many times there's questions like, oh, there are still Native people here, wow.
People
And
actually ask
it's
that
still,
question?
Oh, yeah.
yes, yes. Where do you
Okay.
live? You live like in a regular house, it really does still happen. So it's our job to go out and to inform the community about who we are, about where we come from, about how proud we are of our songs, our stories, our traditions, and all of those teachings that have been passed down for many generations. And one of them actually is an effort that has really been, I think, climbing, surfacing as a topic that is important, and that's acknowledging our two spirit relatives. So thank you to Navi for joining us today. So, even that in and of itself is part of our history. The two spirit relatives and the role that they play in who we are, right? They've always been part of our story, our cultural stories since creation. So it's important that we recognize and we do the share out with our community. So thanks, Navi, for accepting the invitation to join us today. And I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, definitely. So Navi, I mean, anything to add there? And I mean, you have a really unique perspective, I would imagine, because you're a part of both communities, right? The LGBTQ plus community and the Indigenous communities. And if you can just really talk about, what that lived experience is like for you.
Yeah, definitely. The Two Spirit word was very recently coined in like the 90s, and it was brought about because they knew that there were LGBTQ plus people within our communities, but they didn't know what to call them. So they called a group of elders got together and decided we're going to use the term Two Spirit, because when you look at the way the Two Spirit is, it is the essence of the masculine and feminine energies. And this resides in the person. And the way that it was explained to me about the Two Spirit was that they were the ones that went out to the communities and helped. They were the shamans, they were the counselors sometimes, but they were also the ones that, depending on what is needed within the community, they help, whether it was hunters or gatherers or watching the children or watching the elders. They were the ones they played many roles within their community. And I feel that with the essence of the feminine and masculine energies, and they were able to accomplish these goals within their communities. And that's, I feel, why they were held in high regards within their status within that community.
So if I'm understanding correctly, two-spirited individuals within Indigenous populations were really community caretakers, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
And have been lifted up again in great, like revered, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is important, I think, for those of us that are not Indigenous, in particular in this really interesting time that we're living in, where we see, unfortunately, so many attacks against LGBTQ plus people. So Navi, explain that to me, like to be a part of both the Indigenous populations and the LGBTQ plus community. How is that? I mean, that's a fascinating and remarkable life that you're leading.
Yeah, it's definitely very interesting. And, you have to really balance out the way that you come across to each community. Within the LGBTQ plus community here, you got to teach them. They're like, what is Two Spirit? And I use the term that is out there, non-binary is considered, if you look at that would be Two Spirit. And then just educating them what it meant to be part of a Two Spirit, or what it meant to be a Two Spirit person within the Indigenous community back when, and just explaining the different terms that I've learned along the way as I've been listening to people talk about their cultures, their traditions, and how a Two Spirit in their tribe was valued. And then I have to turn around and go to my Indigenous community and explain to them that, yes, this is a fairly new term that is out there, and many Indigenous people do not believe in Two Spirit. They believe that they're either part of the LGBTQ plus community. They don't understand it. And that's fine. But for me, I feel that the Two Spirit term, it encompasses what we are as Indigenous people the cultures, the traditions, the stories. You know, you hear about the Navajo creation story, and you hear how a two-spirit person is involved in that. We were here, we are here, and it's just trying to balance it out. Sometimes it does get a little crazy, it does get a little hectic, but I have always learned to just listen and hear what people have to say, and then bounce in and say, okay, this is what I'm talking about. And, you know, there's always going to be this common line, I feel, that we're going to understand each other in some sense. And many people have really embraced the two-spirit term. Many people within the LGBTQ plus community has really welcomed, at least me and many that do use the term two-spirit. And I feel that very, I feel as an honor, and then using us as those that what we did within the communities back when, as a shaman, a scholar, a medicine person. You know, what we do as two-spirit people, we are medicine, and what we are as Indigenous people, we are medicine to this world. And I feel that it just encompasses all of that.
It's beautiful, medicine and being revered and like spiritual advisors, right? So based on this beautiful narrative that Navi has just given us, Jolyana and Kristine, I'm interested to have you two weigh in here on like, where are the ways that the LGBTQ plus and Indigenous communities can work together, right? I feel obviously we're not just like walking alongside of one another, but we have Indigenous folks like Navi who are two-spirited, who are part of the LGBTQ plus community. So how do we help, I think, integrate LGBTQ plus and two-spirited people more so within our communities is really the question that I have.
Well, I think...
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I think for myself, it's just making myself available, go into other places where that would be non-traditional for business, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to visit other chambers, the gay chambers, the gamers.
Yeah.
Like, where are you? It's like, if I can find you, I'm sure other people can too.
Absolutely.
So let's just get together and figure this out. So I've gone to a lot of events recently that are amazing, that nobody's ever been to, or I've never even heard of. And I get there, it's like, this is great.
Yeah.
How come I don't see more people here? There should be more people. And more than that, how do I get them to come and be and hang out with us?
So what I'm hearing is the importance of sharing culture, right? And choosing to share lived experiences and to go into culturally relevant places that are culturally relevant to folks who are Indigenous and who are relevant to LGBTQ plus folks and all of our diverse communities, really.
Well, and it's not the same that it's not any difference than what we tell people. It's like, you non-natives want to work with us, come to our community.
Yeah.
So you just want to go where the people are, right?
Yeah, definitely. Anything you want to add?
I'd add to that, being a good ally. So at the Phoenix Indian Center, we have, as a social service agency, there are many different service areas that we offer for the community. I mean, from workforce development to substance abuse prevention, suicide prevention work. We offer a robust college and career readiness program. We were talking a little bit about the Youth Council and the work that they're doing as up and coming emerging leaders. But also the advocacy piece is truly important, right? What is important to our community is what we work towards. So being good allies with our LGBTQ2S community is an important area that community members have talked about. So what does that mean to us? Well, what are the areas that we can help focus to shed light on our two-spirit relatives? How can we celebrate them? How can we work alongside them? How can we do some awareness around the use of pronouns? Mm-hmm. How can we do the share out about how Nakle is part of Navajo culture? It's always been here, right? And so that was really kind of what those areas within which our team members really put effort into. So we also support the annual Rainbow Gathering. So it's a convening and it's all about awareness. So we're bringing multiple Indigenous Two-Spirit relatives and friends that are all about celebrating, working alongside, advocating, and supporting our LGBTQ2S plus community. And then we also host a Two-Spirit powwow. So this is really neat. So it's an actual powwow. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but
I'm
powwows
not.
are.
I'm just listening intently.
Okay. So powwows are huge in Indian country. In the United States, there are over 572 federally recognized tribes, and each of them has their own distinct celebration, dance, music, culture, food, home. They're all different. They're not the same. Well, over time, right, the reduction in terms of the number of people, we needed to find ways to celebrate, and a powwow was one of the ways that we would do that. We would come together and dance and sing and heal together. And so they became very common throughout the United States. There are so many powwows. Well, the Two-Spirit powwow in particular is making space for our Two-Spirit relatives. So it's really a neat way to partner and to bring in and be inclusive of all of our community. It's really powerful. We hosted the last Navi, how many have we done now? It's been here for several years. It's a wonderful community event. But what's even better is that, it brings supporters and those that want to be inclusive into one space to celebrate, to dance, to network, to learn. And I think that that's really a big takeaway. And one of the ways that the Phoenix Indian Center is really proud to support our relatives.
Wonderful. And is the Two-Spirit powwow, is that always in February?
We try to do it in February because it's cooler. We did it one year in April and it was very hot.
It was like over 100.
Yeah. So we try to do it in February. That's kind of our goal, is to put it there, because also one of the biggest Two-Spirit powwows out there is the Bates San Francisco powwow.
Okay.
And it's been going on for a long time. It's one of the biggest Two-Spirit powwows, and it's happening at the beginning of February. So we figured that we just have those people come over to our state.
You have momentum and they can come here.
To come and be a part of it. And many do come. Last year, a lot of participants from the Bates Two-Spirit powwow came over to our Two-Spirit powwow. And it was a nice community grouping.
Now, do you have to be Indigenous to attend?
No, you don't have to be Indigenous to attend. There was a lot of friends of mine who were not Indigenous that came to support, and they were like, this is beautiful. This is an amazing event. And I had a lot of friends of mine that like, we didn't know this was going on.
I can tell you I had never heard of it, and I think I know a good amount of things that go on in the area. But if there's ways that one community can be involved and learn more and be partners and if you have a date, let us know when you have a date. We'd love to learn more and be supportive.
Yes,
in any way that we can.
That would be amazing. The more visibility that happens, the more we get out there, not only for the Phoenix Indian Center, but for all Indigenous communities here in Arizona. I think that's a beautiful thing, because I think I was talking to somebody at Tucson for their Indian Center, and they were like, we want to do a powwow too. How do we do that?
Yeah.
And so I've been talking to them about, this is what we do. This is kind of how we start. And I'm just loving the networking that happens at these powwows, because I've met so many people. And I did get to go to one of the biggest Indigenous powwows, was the Gathering of Nation. And I got to go in full drag, full regalia for being a Montana Two-Spirit. That was my title last year. And I got to walk with royalty. Never had they ever had an LGBTQ plus person walk with royalty. And to be a part of that line and stand with the other royalties. And I think I even saw my face on the Jumbotron. It was an amazing, I was tearing up the whole time, because I was there for my people.
And you were being
community.
Accepted for exactly who you are.
And I was being accepted, yes.
Hey, Navi, can you explain what Gathering of Nations is?
Gathering of Nations happens I believe it's at the end of February, and it's a huge powwow that
April.
happens
Last weekend in April.
Okay, last weekend in
Sorry,
April.
Navi. Last weekend in April.
No, it happens at the last weekend in April, and it's a huge powwow. It's a contest powwow, meaning there's categories and dances that happen, but it's just a grand, amazing powwow. All nations come from all over Turtle Island to be a part of this, and they have this huge arena that is filled with so many dancers from all over the place. It was just an amazing, and then, you know, like I said, I was there and I'm being a part of it. I don't know how many people were just amazed to see me in full drag regalia there. They were like, you inspire us. You inspire us to be ourselves. And I said, that's why I'm here. I do nothing but just come here, and that's what I'm doing.
But I mean, I'm just hearing we should be ourselves, be authentically who we are, be actionable allies to one another. There's so much good shared community in our LGBTQ plus and Indigenous communities, and it's just so I think heartwarming the opportunities ahead, Kristine. To your point,
Yeah.
to meet people where we're at, and also just find a way to come together.
Yeah, and I think that's where we are with the chamber. I mean, we're finally growing, getting a momentum, new members, new partnerships. We just came off a really great conference in Tucson where we met some of our new partners.
Yeah.
And they were there and part of the conference and teaching us about social media and how to be more forthcoming and honest and real.
Yeah.
With your stuff.
Authentic.
So, yes,
it's
exactly.
all about being authentic.
Yes.
Absolutely. So I'm just so looking forward to, I think, all of the additional conversations that this initial conversation is going to bring, and opportunities to partner with you all going into 2025. So again, thank you for sharing your wisdom and your expertise, and just sharing yourselves and your organizations, because it gives us the opportunity to find ways to like really mutually connect, right? Speaking of 2025, there's a reality that we have a new administration that is coming into office on January 20th. And I know the LGBTQ plus community, so many, the immigrant community, many diverse communities have a number of concerns or find that they are facing new realities with the election of Donald Trump. How do you think this next administration is going to impact the tribal communities?
I think it's already impacting our communities. And part of the reason why I say that is I saw a new video where a woman in northern Arizona was talking about these illegal immigrants who were in the middle of nowhere near Flagstaff. They're not illegal immigrants, they're Navajos in their homeland.
And there were kids that were taking a
They were
walk outside their
little
school,
kids.
right?
Yeah. And the woman was saying, like, they're speaking a language I've never heard of. And it's like, well, unless you're around Navajo, you're not really going to be familiar with how to speak it or hear it. And so it's those just kind of videos that are coming out. It's like,
and that fear and tension and the othering that is happening if you're a part of a diverse community.
Yeah. And then the other part is, there's people out there saying, all these Mexicans are coming in. Like, they're not Mexicans. They're Yaqui. They're Tana Atam. They're native people. They belong here. They're not new. You're just paying attention now and seeing, yes, we're here, we're alive, we're still here, and we're going to go back and forth as we please.
How are the ways that we can work together to, I think, combat misinformation and disinformation to ensure that our communities are safe? It seems like those are the types of conversations that we all need to be having. Because like you're saying, Kristine, this rhetoric is heightened. People use social media in ways that can be, those kids were, in a pretty scary situation, right? Because of that woman and what she posted on Facebook or whatever, Twitter, X.
Well, I think part of it is that we have to recognize that some of our leadership, regardless of R's and D's, have really never left their neighborhood. One, perfect example like that woman. Two is being able to call out and remind people, we've always been here. We're not going anywhere. So when you say go back where you came from, it's like, I walked 2 feet What do you want me to do beyond that?
This is where my family was born and raised. Yeah.
And we have 22 sovereign nations here
In the state of Arizona.
Yes.
We have more nations than any other state in the nation. Is that correct?
with tribal land base.
Tribal land base. I
Yes.
apologize.
So you can't go anywhere in Arizona without traversing through tribal land.
Okay.
And that's how the roads are made. Our canal systems are an indigenous program. And that's something that we have to go back to. But that goes back to people saying, well, we can't talk about that because it's considered critical race theory. It's history.
It's the history of how the state was born.
Right. And
Yeah.
there's so much more that
Prior
needs
to
to be
statehood.
said about that. Yes, before
Prior to
statehood.
statehood.
Exactly.
So we need to educate more, is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
And we need to work together, is what I'm hearing.
And highlight more people like Jolyana and Navi and all the important work that they're doing. And I just want to point back to Navi. Navi just got an important award on Friday night from the Phoenix Indian Center.
Well, do tell.
Yes, I was actually given the award and nominated by community members, and I was given the Person of the Year award. Yeah.
That's remarkable. Congratulations.
That is an amazing. When I first heard, I was driving to work, and I got the call saying that I received an award. I go, my first reaction was I think I told the person that was calling, "Shut up! I don't believe you." And he's like, "No, I'm serious." And I'm like, "This is an honor." And to have my mom there and to have her at the banquet was just an amazing.
She must have been so proud of you.
Just to see what I've done. And then, of course, with her, working there in the 70s at the Phoenix Indian Center. And I believe one of the awards, the person that it was named after was her boss. I forgot what her name was. But, and she was like, "Oh my goodness." She goes, "I remember her." And I'm like, "Oh, that's so sweet." But, she goes, "I'm very proud of you, my son. I'm very proud of what you're doing. And I support you 100%. And just to hear that from my mom was just an amazing feeling. And I feel that that's what we need. We need that encouragement and we need that support, especially going into 2025 with this new administration. I know that many people within the community are very scared and they don't know what to do. And, I have to reassure them we'll get through this.
We will, and we need to be there for one another. We need to be in community with one another, and we need to be there for one another, right?
Correct. I mean, we are resilient. We're still here.
Yeah,
We're
it's one of the
still
first things
active.
Jolyana said is we are a resilient community. We know how resilient the LGBTQ plus community is, and I feel like I don't know. I had a health journey in 2023, and there really is something to going through like these vulnerable times where you come out of it a better person than when you came in. And so I believe that our communities will be stronger, we'll be more connected, and we will have a greater sense of community as we walk through whatever's coming our way in these next couple of years.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Anything else you want to add?
I agree completely with what you all said. There are always challenges, right, and barriers that lie ahead. That's just the reality. But it's one thing to use that to become afraid versus you use that as your fuel to continue toward advancement, to continue toward, you said it so well, building community. That's what we have to do, right? Instead of siloed vision, Indigenous peoples have always been about collective thought. It's not just me, but it's us. And I think that as long as we continue to do that and we build on that movement, supporting all of our communities, no matter what color, right? It's the way in which we'll continue to move forward in a positive for the generations behind us. So I will admit, from a personal standpoint, I was thinking, okay, what's going to happen? And kind of, all these thoughts right away, but then thought, well, I'm where I'm supposed to be. Using this organization to change lives, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'll continue to do that, continue to network, continue to build and to share with others and join in on their efforts, so long as it's part of our mission and our vision, which is to ultimately have a thriving community. So I agree with what you said, and that building of community is just so important, and we need to continue to do that.
Thank you, Jolyana. Anything you want to add, Navi?
No, I absolutely agree with that. And education and just listening to other people speak, letting them get their frustrations out, letting them, relieve that anger or whatever they have inside, and just know that you're there and have that connection. And I believe that that's what we should do in our community.
Absolutely. Kristine?
Again, I'm just happy to be here and finally get the chance to meet Navi. I've heard a lot about them, so it's great to have this opportunity.
Absolutely.
But again, what Jolyana said, what we've all been saying, it's building the community and becoming more familiar with us. And the organizations that are available to the tribal members here, because there's a lot of them, and maybe not a lot of people know what they are, but I think a lot of people know who the Phoenix Indian Center is, and we're proud to have Jolyana join us on the chamber as one of our board members. And we're looking for leaders in the community who are willing to stand with us as well.
Well, we all got to stand together. Thank you all for being here. Such a delight, and I look forward to the road ahead with all three of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.